So as you can see here, my workstation is a bit of a mess. It's primarily full of Kyosho SST gearboxes, either from the Pro X or Pro XRT or the Outlaw Rampage Pro. I have a laydown gearbox here. So I have a bunch of Pro XRTs and Pro X's and some Rampage Pro or Outlaw Rampage Pro builds that I'm working on. So these are, these have kind of been in stasis for a while because I've been waiting on some reproduction towers to come in. So I just want to show you guys some of the Kyosho repro parts that I had sent out for reproduction, and also a Traxxas update. So I'll start with the Traxxas one because that's the simplest. This is the gearbox for the Traxxas Nitro Street Hawk. It's basically the gas version of the TRX3 buggy or the SRT truck. And I made a video about this several months ago. So I sent out a spare gearbox for my friend to sort of trace out the various screw mounting points that we could potentially attach a motor plate to do an electric conversion. So he gave me two motor plates. I guess one was just his initial attempt at cutting the part, and then the second one he did a slightly better cut, and also an indentation here where this indentation kind of feeds into, I think it's on this side, this little bulge here. So it slots into there and it fits in rather nicely. But it won't be quite a simple bolt-on because, you have a flat plate here and a topographical outer surface. So there's kind of a gap there between the plate and the primary surface, outer surface of the gearbox. So I'll have to play some games to sort of pick up that slack in the spacing. But in any case, I do have a motor mount to get started with an electric conversion of the Traxxas Nitro Street Hawk. Okay, so I'll put that aside. And then there's all the other fun stuff. So this, by the way, is the rear shock tower for the Kyosho Pro XRT, their stadium truck version of the Pro X. So I have that reproduced in carbon fiber, which is this right here. It's very nice. And it should be an exact fit, which it is. Okay, so this is good. I have correspondingly a reproduced front shock tower for the Pro XRT, which is also the same exact shock tower for the Outlaw Rampage Pro, the Nitro version of that truck. I was hoping to actually get two of these, but I have one. So I think what I'll do is I'll use this on probably my Outlaw Rampage Pro electric conversion, the mid-motor truck conversion. But we'll see. I have to decide, or I could just order another one from him. Shouldn't be a problem. And this is the rear shock tower for the Outlaw Rampage Pro. Okay, so basically you have the rear shock towers for the electric and nitro versions of the Pro X style trucks, stadium trucks, and then the front tower goes to both of them. Okay, so I have that set, if you will. And then the rest of these are for the Kyosho Inferno 10. So I have a few examples of an Inferno 10. Actually, I have three. One second here. So this is the latest one that I picked up. I basically bought this to get as basically as spares for the other Inferno 10 that's in that box right there. It's in pieces because I took that one apart to send the upper deck, the lower deck, the towers, and so forth out to my friend to get reproduced parts. So what he did is he made, first we'll start with the towers. Okay, so we have the front shock tower and the rear shock tower, and we not only had these sort of redone or reproduced, but we also redesigned them a little bit. So on the original front tower, okay, you have just three mounting holes here for the shock, and you have three mounting holes here for the inner camber link. So we tried to extend that to 6 mounting holes for the shock, top and bottom, and then a matrix of mounting holes for the inner camber link. Okay, so I think it came out okay. These are basically prototype parts, so it's entirely possible that we'll have to rework this a little bit. And looking here at the shock mounting holes, there's not a whole lot of material between the upper and lower mounting holes here. This shouldn't be a problem if you use the upper mounting holes, which I'll probably end up doing. But for the lower mounting holes, as the car lands off of a jump, it's going to put upward pressure against the shock mounting screw, and that could end up pressing through and breaking this small amount of carbon fiber material here. So I think I'll have to, have this redone a little bit for a second revision to maybe extend the material of the shock tower out this way so that we can take these two holes and push them down a little bit to get a little bit more material here between the upper and lower mounting holes. But otherwise, the front tower looks pretty good. And then for the rear tower, we did kind of the same thing. The original rear tower just had maybe 3 shock mounting holes and about 4 inner camber link mounting holes. And both the front and rear original towers were probably sufficient, but I wanted to make sure I had the capability to play some games here, so we added a whole bunch of holes here for the upper shock mounting positions, and these have a fair amount of material between the holes, so they should fare at least better than the front tower as it's currently designed. But maybe, for example, we can take this inner hole and move it inside a little bit more, although actually I don't think that's possible because these 4 holes are for the wing mount. So actually we might have to take this matrix here and move it out a little bit. So that's one revision that can be done. For all of the camber link mounting holes, these are all nicely spaced. Plenty of material between the holes, so this seems to have come out okay. So I'm going to get started with these when I do my Inferno 10 electric conversion build. And I'll talk to my friend to see if he can, make a few revisions to these in the meantime. And then he also redid the upper deck and the lower deck. So these were originally aluminum parts, right? There's an aluminum lower deck here and an aluminum upper deck. And I was kind of on the fence as to whether I wanted to use the original aluminum parts or, do like a full carbon fiber build. I would suspect that if I wanted to do an electric conversion of this car and run it at Vonats, that it would have to be more or less as stock as possible. So that's kind of what motivated me to get an additional one of these. So I have that one up there, and I have this one here. So one of these will get the original aluminum upper and lower decks, and probably the original aluminum towers, and then the other one will get all of the carbon fiber pieces. The upper deck here actually excludes, it closed off both of the servo mounting points here, which if you want to do a really stock build may be an issue, because I think, if I remember correctly, this could be the steering servo? No, I think that I'd have to think about that. I thought one of these was for the steering servo, but I could be wrong. Actually, no, that's not true. Excuse me. The steering servo actually goes here, and it mounts kind of vertically like this. These are for throttle and brake, I think, for the nitro car. So these were closed off. And then you have this area here, which is reproduced faithfully, that you can mount your servo on as it was originally designed for this chassis. And then you just have a nice plate here, maybe to mount some electronics or something. And then for the lower deck, you have this beefy lower deck. So this is in 3mm carbon fiber, and this upper deck I think was in 1.5 or 2mm carbon fiber. So this lower deck has all of the relevant screw holes. I just have to countersink the bottom of the chassis for each of the screw holes I plan to use. Okay, so some of these are nitro holes, some of these are not necessary for an electric conversion. So, I have to do some homework on this. Since this is made out of flat carbon fiber, these little ears here that extend outwards, those are basically what you would have used as like droop, you know, plates, if you will, if you had a droop screw going through these arms. On the original aluminum, they were bent downwards a bit, but here they're perfectly flat. Okay, I don't think that'll be an issue because these suspension arms are from the Laser ZX, and those never had holes for droop screws to be placed through them, at least as originally designed. So I'm not really too worried about that. But in any case, this will give me, perhaps some more options for figuring out how to mount a motor mount on a nice carbon fiber plate like this. Drilling through this should be relatively straightforward, but I want to make sure to figure out exactly how I'm going to place a motor mount on here. I talked about that a little bit in the previous video I made about this chassis, but in any case, I just want to point out that I haven't been doing nothing. Right? I've basically had a lot of parts out for reproduction, and I've just been waiting on those to come back before continuing with some of these other vintage Kyosho builds that I have going on. So this is maybe 3 different chassis that I have to work on. I have a bunch of Kyosho SST gearboxes to fix. These gearboxes are a real pain in the ass to get them to run freely and mesh freely. This one particular one I've been working on for a little while. You got to kind of file the gears down a little bit, make sure everything is perfectly clean, and even still the plastic molding might not be perfect for each individual gearbox, so you might get some bind with the gears. So I'm still trying to diagnose this particular gearbox, which is supposed to be fairly new, why I have some binding when I put all the gears in, including the idler gear, and close everything up. So I'm working on that for this gearbox, and I got to do this gearbox, and I got to do that gearbox. So that's going to take some time. And then once all of that is done, I do also have a Kyosho Laser ZXRR. So this is one of the later models of the Kyosho ZXR series that I would like to turn into a runner. I actually have 2 of these. One of them is upstairs in my library, and this one is in, you could say, runner condition. So I want to make a decent runner out of this because I really regret selling my my previous Laser ZXR runner. So I figured I'd get another one and try to redo the whole thing all over again. So this will happen eventually, but it'll be quite some time because I have all these other projects to work on. So a lot of vintage Kyosho stuff, 1 vintage Traxxas project, and I just got to get started and make stuff happen. So yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.